Hi, everyone. I'm Carly.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from her adventures.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more.
Away she goes.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Away She Goes. Today, we're coming at you with a very, very important topic that is travel safety. It's something that's always on our minds, especially traveling as a woman or maybe even any other minorities. Traveling solo, also a very tricky topic. Travel safety is always important. So today we'll give you some tips on what to look out for. All the advice that we present to you today is taken from our safety toolkit, which is not available yet, although we in the episode mentioned that it's available because we were hoping it would be. But well, that's life. But you can sign up at heradventures.com/toolkit. The link is also in the podcast description so that you get notified when it does come out. And you also get 10% off as well. Of course, you can also sign up for any other of our toolkits for the same deal of 10% off. We also have budget travel, travel 101, solo travel, and ethical and ecological travel. And now back to the episode.
So before we dive deep into the episode, I just kind of want to offer up a little bit of a disclaimer here. So throughout the episode, obviously, we're going to be making a ton of safety suggestions, giving you a lot of safety tips, things that you can do to help reduce risk. And I'm going to be honest with you up front, some of them are cringy. They might make you cringe. For example, we're going to offer suggestions on what you should wear and what you should not wear. Now, that being said, obviously, we all are constantly working and hoping towards a world where the things like what you wear or where you go or being a woman does not affect your safety and is not relevant to your safety. For now, that unfortunately is still the reality of how things are. And we have to take these factors into consideration when making this episode. But we want to definitely make sure that you understand two things. First and foremost, you have the right to live however you choose, and no one has the right to threaten your safety because of those things. Whether you're following the suggestions that we lay out in this episode or not, any infringement on your safety is not your fault. And nothing in this episode should make you think that. So us implying that if you wear or don't wear certain items, that you're risking your safety, that is not our intention whatsoever. We simply are looking at the reality and the facts that wearing certain clothes, for example, might make you more susceptible to a threat while traveling. And secondly, we do not begin to assume that we are addressing all safety concerns. This episode is only half an hour long. So this episode really is a very general and a very brief overview. We would have to record like a 24-hour episode to be able to address every single safety. It would be impossible for us to ever record an episode that addressed every single potential safety issue that you might come across while traveling. So we really are focusing in this episode on addressing general concerns that we hear about being a travel group and the concerns that we feel most often affect most or all women while traveling at some point. And please remember that this is a starting point, not an ending point, for you to better understand how to keep yourself safe. So in addition to what we tell you here, always make sure to do your own research when traveling. Always make sure to take unique and necessary precautions for yourself to keep yourself safe. This is not an exhaustive list. And always just do, those extra things that you need to do to keep yourself safe while traveling.
The first thing that you can do is to prepare your loved ones at home. This includes making sure that your trusted loved ones at home know your itinerary and your plans. They know where you are and when you are there, so they can estimate when you will be off the grid and when you should check in and message them, things like that. It's also good to have a plan then in place for if they don't hear from you for a certain amount of time, when they know you're currently not out at sea or something, you should have cell reception. Why aren't you answering? One thing to be aware of, especially in the age of social media, to not overshare your trip and your itinerary publicly. So on social media, you shouldn't do it before you go, and you shouldn't go into too much detail when you're there. So you can say things like, oh, I'm currently in Thailand, or maybe even Bangkok because it's a quite big city. But you wouldn't want to say, oh, I'm currently right next to Big Ben or something like that, especially if your profiles are on public, because you don't know what people will see and which people will see it. And this could lead to simple things like when you're gone, your house might get robbed because people don't know that you're not there, or more complex things like you never know who follows you. That's the end of the line.
All right. The next thing we want to talk about is travel insurance. So, travel insurance is definitely a hot topic because a lot of times when you're traveling, you're booking a trip, you're already spending money on your flights, on your accommodations, on things to do, planned excursions and stuff like that. So, you're already spending a pretty penny most of the time for your trips. And travel insurance comes up, and it's always like, oh, do I really want to spend that extra? Like, I've already spent several hundreds of dollars. Do I really want to spend that little bit of extra more? Yes, you do. Travel insurance is one of those things that you hopefully never need, but when you do, it will pay for itself tenfold. I actually have a personal experience, not me, but when I was in Disney World, I was 13 years old, I believe. I went to Disney World with my family, my mom, my dad, my brother, and we spent a week in Florida. We flew there from our home in New York. The last day that we were in Disney World, we were supposed to fly out the next morning. My dad came down with a severe stomach flu. He was in no condition to fly. He would not have been able to fly at all. He needed to be in a room near a restroom. He was not getting on a plane. This is 12 hours before our departing flight from Florida.
Oof.
So what happened was that next morning, my mom, my brother, and I went to the airport. We got on our flight. We flew home. My dad stayed in Florida in our hotel room, and we had travel insurance for that trip. So what happened was there was a doctor that came to the hotel room at some point throughout the day to, check that he was legitimate. They do check and make sure that you are legitimately ill or legitimately in need. All of his change of flight was covered completely. All of his meals, not that he was eating that much, but the extra nights at the hotel were covered by the insurance. Any of those extra costs, any of his transportation to the airport, like any of those extra costs that we incurred as a result of him being ill were completely covered by the travel insurance. So being sick while you're traveling obviously adds a whole nother level of stress to the experience, but knowing that you're covered in cases like that, where shit like that happens, is a comforting thing to know. Okay, if I get sick, there's a contingency plan in place. I'm covered. Speaking of illness while traveling in this day and age, obviously we have to address COVID-19. Please research COVID-19 and that kind of contingency when you're booking travel insurance. Since the onset of the pandemic, some travel insurance companies and plans have specifically been worded to not include anything related to COVID. So you might think, oh, if I get COVID while I'm sick, insurance will cover it. And that is not always the case. So please research, obviously, all of the details of the insurance in terms of what it covers and what it doesn't, but especially in the day and age of COVID, if that's a concern for you, just make sure to figure out if your plan covers COVID related things or not, because if not, you might think that you're okay and then get stuck somewhere and be on the line for all that money because you didn't read the fine print in your insurance.
Another thing we have to talk about is scams. You have to be wary of scams. There's many different ones. There's the most usual one is pickpockets. That's pretty general. It's all over the world, mostly bigger cities and crowds. Tourists are especially targeted. So you can carry hidden money belts, stuff like that. There's a great variety of other scams that can vary depending on the location that you're going to. So it's best to do your own research on this. Research travel blogs, even our website, look into the workbook, and you'll find some more detailed information about different scams that are popular at various locations. You also have to look into the reputability of the tour companies you're using, if you're using any tour companies. And for that, your best friend will be online reviews by other travelers. Read them thoroughly. Don't just look like, oh, it has an average rating of 4.5 stars. Look at the comments, see what they're saying. If they're all just saying, Amazon, you know how a lot of the comments are like, oh yeah, fast delivery, haven't tested the product yet, 5 stars. They also exist for travel and tour companies, so best read the reviews and not just look at the ratings.
Booking was easy, 5 stars. Meanwhile, your trip is in 4
Right?
months and you haven't even experienced the company. All right. So the next one is document and money safety. So when you're traveling, particularly traveling abroad in terms of other documentation, but this goes for all kinds of travel, keeping your documents and your money, any cash, credit cards, any form of payment or currency that you have is very important. These documents and money are often the target of pickpockets and scams. So it's very important to kind of know what to watch out for and keep these things safe. With your documents, passport, driver's license, that type of thing, visas, make sure to make copies of them and carry the copies with you in case an original gets lost. That way, if you need to go to the embassy, you can show them, hey, here's a copy of my passport. And it's much easier than starting at ground zero with that type of thing. When storing money, you're not going to want to carry all of your cash on you if you carry cash. You also don't want to leave all of your cash in one place. Like if you're keeping cash somewhere in a hotel room or in an accommodation, if someone finds it and takes your whole stash,
you're fucked.
Now your cash is gone. Yeah, yes, you are. So we recommend utilizing different places to put some of the money. That way, if it gets taken from one spot, it's not all of your money gone in one sitting. Even carrying it on your body as well. Put some in a fanny pack, some in a zip up pocket, don't put all of your money at one place on your person either. When you do have to carry money and documents, you want to do so as securely as possible. Don't be, holding stuff out in the open. Don't be counting cash in your hand out in the middle of the street, just out in plain sight. Don't have a backpack on your back. Somebody will take something out of that and you will not even feel it. A purse, they can get cut off your arm or yanked off of your arm. I have like a crossbody bag that has mesh steel under the cross strap so that if somebody were to come up and try to cut it, you can't cut through it because there's steel all on the inside. So purchasing something like that is very helpful. Hide anything like a fanny pack so that it's not readily apparent. There's money belts that you can buy that aren't quite as like bulky or as retro as a fanny pack. They're a little bit thinner, more discreet. Make sure everything is securely attached to your person. So again, what I typically travel with is a crossbody bag. So it comes down over one shoulder. I call it like a hipster bag. And the bag part like rests against my hip. And when I'm walking down the street, I have it so that my hand is over the bag and I'm holding it to my body. So I will feel if somebody touches it, if somebody's trying to take something out of it. And again, the crossbody part is reinforced with mesh steel on the inside so that if somebody were to come up and attempt to cut it off of my shoulder, they would not be able to cut through it because it's got steel. And it also is RFID certified so that ideally my credit card number and that type of thing wouldn't be able to be accessed as long as everything is in the bag. So something like that is really helpful. I highly recommend it.
Oh yeah, you can even get wallets that are RFID certified, or something that also helps if you have multiple RFID cards, put them all together in one place, because then if you ever try to use your wallet in the tube in London, it says, clash of cards. Please take the card out of your wallet and try again.
My parents wrap their cards in aluminum foil in their wallets.
That's extra.
It is. They don't have RFID wallets, but I'm thinking of getting them for them. Mom, if you're listening to this episode, no, you're not.
So next on, we have airport safety, since a lot of stuff goes on at airports and a lot of travel happens at airports. Some tips might be universally true though, such as never leave your belongings unattended. Not even with a nice lady you met at the gate. And this goes vice versa. Also, don't let others store their items with you.
I've had it happen. I've had like little sweet old grandma come up to me. Oh, can you watch this while I go to the bathroom? And I'm like, ma'am, you don't know me. First of all, no, I don't know you. But second of all, you do not know me. Like, if you have harmless intentions, you should not be trusting your shit with a stranger.
Yep, no, definitely hard pass. And also another London Tube announcement. If you see something, say something. So if you see any unattended bags, go to any member of staff at the airport and alert them to it. You never know what it is. You can also make yourself aware of the airport security and emergency procedures like evacuation. You can keep a lookout about your nearest emergency exits, stuff like that. Something that is very airport specific is if you have to sleep at the airport, because let's be real, anyone ever been like, oh yeah, I'm going to sleep at the train station or the bus station? Not really. One possibility is to get a hotel. There's often many hotels on site, but if that's too expensive with you, then maybe if you're traveling in a group, you can sleep in shifts, for example. Or if you're traveling solo, you should definitely stay in an area that is crowded, maybe where there's some security cameras and there's people everywhere. So hopefully, if something happens, someone will make use of that rule. If you see something, say something. You should definitely hide your money in a money belt, and also important documents should all be hidden. You can use your backpack as a pillow or rest your legs on it, something to cover it, and something that's you will definitely wake up if someone tries to take it from you. You can also consider, if you're traveling with a suitcase, for example, sleeping with an arm or a leg looped through the little, what do you call that thing, Carly? The handle that
Strap.
the handle or the strap thing you use to like drag it along with, something like that. Anything that you're like touching and it'll be hard for anyone to take anything from you, basically, and that it'll wake you up and alert you.
All right. Next, we're going to go into medical safety. So, again, first and foremost, we are not a medical group. We are a travel group.
Nope.
So, this is all very general medical advice. Please, if you're going to be traveling, consult with your doctor, your trusted medical professional to give you the advice that is best suited for you. It's different for everybody. My medical advice is different than Sophia's, it's different from any single one of our listeners. So, these are general tips. Please consult with your doctor or trusted medical professional for your specific steps that you should take and things that you need to do when traveling. Research required and recommended vaccines for your destination. So some destinations not only recommend that you receive certain vaccines, but will require certain vaccines. And I am not talking about the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm talking about
Yellow fever, malaria,
certain malaria, hepatitis, like other things. This is not COVID, not talking about COVID. So definitely research what vaccines are recommended and required for your destination and make sure that you get them on time. Bring all of your specific medications. If you're on any prescription medications or you need, like me, I need Dramamine anytime I travel, because if I'm going to be on a boat, I will get seasick. If I'm on a plane for too long, I will get travel sick. So make sure that you have any medications that you need, both over the counter and prescription, and bring extra in case you get stuck, in case your flights get delayed. Don't just bring enough for your set trip. We all know travel does not always go as planned. So make sure to bring some extra to allow for extra time that you might spend at your destination. Make sure also to keep any necessary medications in your carry-on bag. Make sure, or your purse, anything that is staying on your person, especially if you're flying. If they're in your checked bag and your checked bag gets lost or stolen, you're fucked. Now you're in trouble. So make sure that anything that you need to take daily or will need to take is on your person somehow, so that you have access to it, even if your other stuff gets lost. Pack a small first aid kit. Our workbook has a checklist on what to include, but just general things, antiseptic, Band-Aids, gauze, tape, things like that. COVID-19, now I will address it. It's constantly changing. What's going on in the world with COVID on the date that we're recording this episode is going to be different than what's going on the date where you're listening to this. It will be different tomorrow. It was different yesterday than it is today, both with COVID-19 and with COVID-19 vaccines. The information changes all the time, and it changes and is different depending on the destination. So please do your research regarding COVID-19 testing, COVID-19 vaccination requirements, or things like that for your specific destination at the time of your travel. And again, I want to reiterate, we are not a medical group. This is all general advice. Please consult your doctor for the best medical tips for you.
And if I may add to the COVID-19
Please
thing,
do.
Check the government websites. They're a great resource for finding out the laws for tourists. And also, it's
constantly
updated, it's reliable. Secondhand sites might be out of date, And the worst thing you can do is write into a travel group, hey, I want to travel there. Has anyone been there recently? What are the restrictions like? Because that's just a personal story. And while it might be nice and helpful, it might have already changed. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about accommodation safety. And again, like we've mentioned before, reviews are your best friends. Take a look at the reviews in great detail. Are like, especially the thing that I personally like to do is to take a first look at the worst reviews and see if they're reasonable and how old they are. And then also look at the most recent reviews. If there's a lot of them, that's a good place to start. Once you booked your accommodation and you're there, you should always lock your room when you leave. And if you have a safe or a lockbox, like some kind of locker in a hostel room usually, secure all your belongings in there and lock that. If you're going to a hostel, small tip, take a padlock with you because you can always buy one at the hostel desk, but it's cheaper if you bring one. If you want some extra additional security, you can also buy portable door lock alarm systems, kind of. Well, either or. There's like portable door locks that you can attach to the door handle, which makes your door impossible to unlock if it doesn't have a lock per se, or a tiny alarm you can attach to the door that will wake you when someone tries to open it. If you want to be extra careful, then go for it.
All right. Next, we're going to go into the weather. Some destinations have the risk for having certain weather phenomena that you may not be used to. Some examples I can think of, even just within the United States. So the Midwestern United States, some of the southern part of the United States as well, during the summer get tornadoes. The southeastern US gets hurricanes from June to about September, October, depending on that hurricane season. Typhoons in the Pacific Ocean, earthquakes that can cause tsunamis all throughout any of the oceans. Destinations like Japan, the Polynesian Islands, the Micronesian Islands are all particularly susceptible to tsunamis because of their very low elevations on the coastline. The Western US, Hawaii, Alaska. So there are all sorts of different weather phenomena that can happen at your specific destination. It could be something that you've never experienced before. So make sure that wherever you're going, depending on the time of year, you research if extreme weather or these weather phenomena are known to happen in that area during the time that you'd be going, and make sure that you make yourself aware of how to respond to that event should you find yourself there. Like, for example, in the southeastern US, when there's hurricanes, if they're going to be that bad, those areas are evacuated. When you drive on highways in the southern US, a lot of the exit on ramps and off ramps have like bars that will go down in front of the road, like you would see in front of a railroad crossing. And those are for when like mass evacuations have to happen due to the weather. So make sure to familiarize yourself with what to do in case of certain weather events, blizzards, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, flooding, fires. Fires aren't necessarily weather, but it makes the most sense to kind of include them in here as well, because it's a natural phenomenon. But yeah, just make sure to make yourself aware of what you might expect and how to react and how to keep yourself safe in certain weather events.
Something really unrelated to the weather, except for, well, hot weather, is dressing safely. You should always consider dressing down. You don't want to flaunt your wealth or expensive clothes, not even the knockoff clothes. You want to dress more modestly than you usually would, because otherwise you're making yourself a target. If people see you in, even if it's like, if you bought fake Gucci at the market, wait to wear it when you're home, or your friends will laugh at the joke. They're like, oh, what? You bought that for €5? Something like that, because pickpockets won't know the difference and you'll be a target. It's very similar to making yourself look very touristy, but then that's a whole different story too. Something you should also be aware of is cultural norms. In some countries, it's more culturally appropriate for women to cover more of their bodies than in other countries. But Kali will tell you some more about respecting cultures.
So the main thing to remember with cultural norms is that they are probably not going to be exactly what you're used to, and you need to respect that. You are not at your home. You are in somebody else's home. You are somewhere else. You're at a different part of the world. You need to respect that the cultural norms are different. It's okay to acknowledge that they're different, but we need to respect that they are different than what we might be used to. Even if you do not agree with the cultural expectations and rules of a given place, it's still imperative that you respect the location and the people that you're coming into contact with. You're a guest in their homeland, and you're the one who has to make, some adaptations to local customs and local culture. Some places in the Middle East, I know, obviously there are mosques in the Middle East, and some mosques, women are not allowed in certain mosques, or in other mosques you wouldn't be allowed in if you are not a practicing member of the Muslim faith. So respect that you may not be allowed, even if you want to go in the mosque and take a picture. If you are not a Muslim, you are not able to do so because of their religion, and that's their beliefs. Speaking of photos, we do not want to be taking any risks for photos. I know we all want to get the perfect picture. We all want to have the best memories, but it is not worth risking yourself and your safety, or risking others, or damaging a location, whether it's a natural landmark or not. You don't want to take risks for photos. You don't want to be hanging off of rocks, or hanging off of the side of a building, or swimming somewhere that is you're not supposed to be swimming in. Whatever the situation is, do not put yourself at risk to take the perfect photo. There have been countless stories of people actually passing away or gravely injuring themselves from trying to do just that. Obey all laws of your destination, even if they are different than your own. Those are the laws that you're going to be held accountable for, not the ones that you're used to at home. And perspective is everything. So certain things that you consider to be normal, and I am air quoting normal, are not normal universally across the world. So again, realize this is not, us standing on a soapbox lecturing, but just realize again that you're in a location that's different from your home. The way that people speak, act, behave is going to be different than what you're used to. And instead of getting frustrated or annoyed by these differences, try to embrace them and immerse yourself in a new culture, because that is what travel is all about. That's a big part of travel for many of us, is getting to experience cultures and people that are different than what we've been used to. So while cultural differences can be a little bit nerve-wracking at times, you might feel a little uncomfortable, a little unsure of yourself, try to embrace it. Many people at any destination are going to be very warm and welcoming to you and will embrace you with open arms. So just make sure to extend the same courtesy to them while you're traveling.
That sounds really great. And next up is drug and alcohol safety. And who better to tell you about drug and alcohol safety than the practicing straight edge person on this podcast who doesn't drink nor do drugs?
I don't do drugs. I drink a little. I drink socially, but I definitely do not do drugs.
So there's no problem with using alcohol or drugs while traveling, but you have to remember to do so safely. So you have to be wary of traveling with certain items, as it's illegal to cross borders sometimes, or some are illegal to be possessed in other places. I could go into a tangent about a friend I had that accidentally traveled with weed to Norway.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I had to pay a hefty sum for that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So follow the general rules of safety.
And before we go on, not to cut you off, with marijuana for the United States, it's very confusing because marijuana recreationally is legal in some of the states of the United States, Colorado, New York now, California, there's various states across the United States where marijuana recreationally is legal. However, federally, marijuana is still illegal in the United States. So when you're flying, it's considered federal. Even if you're going through TSA in New York or TSA in California or Colorado, you are not going to be permitted to bring marijuana on a flight. Even if I was flying from New York to California, two places where it's legal, because you're still under federal law, it would be prohibited and you would still risk getting in trouble. So it's always best to, if you're going to be engaging in that type of activity, that's fine. I do not recommend bringing it on airplanes. Wait until you're at your destination to get into that type of thing, so you're not traveling with those items.
Yes, and for your destination, everything applies, the same stuff as you would back home. Get your stuff from trusted places, like legal dispensaries. Make sure it's trusted sources and not the dealer from the corner.
Guy on the corner.
I mean, no shade to him. If you know him personally, go for it. But could be sketchy. As for drinks, it goes same as home. Do not leave your drinks unattended. We can go even further than that and say, watch that the bartender is pouring from a closed bottle. And whenever you're not feeling too well or feel unsafe with having consumed anything, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Go to people like the bartender that I just mentioned, people that you know, maybe you're reconnecting with some friends over travels, people that you would assume are safe. Maybe not strangers, but if there's no one else around, it's better than no one.
When I was in the process of writing this workbook, when I wrote the section on drug and alcohol safety, I actually spoke with coffee shop Ibiza, which is in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And a coffee shop is the term used there for a dispensary. And I spoke with them about safety tips and things like that. And they reiterated to me that they want to help, like and bartenders, many bartenders are the same way. Like they want to help you. If you need help, do not be afraid to ask a bartender, ask the person at the dispensary. They'll help you find a good product for you. A bartender will help you secure a safe way home if you're not feeling well. So just to piggyback off of that, do not be afraid to ask for help. There are many people around you who will be willing and able to help you out. Sorry, I just half hijacked your section.
Oh, don't worry.
And the last thing we want to talk about today in our basic safety overview is self-defense. So self-defense is one of those things that you hope you never have to use, but it's always good to know what to do so that if you're ever in a situation where you do need to use it, you don't freeze up and you know exactly what you have to do. So first and foremost, you want to walk around with confidence. You don't want to look, even if you are nervous, it's normal to feel nervous or unsure while you're traveling, but you want to try to not portray that as much as possible. You want to walk around sure of where you're going. If you need a map, try to look at the map before you leave and don't have the map out in front of you while you're walking around. This will create the perception that you're unsure of yourself. It will create the perception that you're nervous, that you're not paying attention to your surroundings. Do not set stuff down out of your possession. If you're at a cafe and you put your purse on the chair next to you and you are not in contact with it, there's a good chance that somebody's going to walk by and swipe it and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Your phone, don't put your phone on the table an arm's length away from you. You are inviting somebody to come and take it. Learn some basic self-defense moves. Again, something that we hope to never have to use is physical self-defense, but it's always good to arm yourself with just basic knowledge of that and kind of think of these moves so that if you ever are in a situation, it's just second nature to you. The eyes, the throat, a good swift knee between the legs for a man usually will do the trick. So just kind of familiarize yourself with those basic self-defense moves. Mental self-defense, though, is a good protection. Using your voice, strong, firm, loud, assertive voice if you need to defend yourself. The confidence, again, comes back. Physical self-defense is always the last resort. You use it if you absolutely have to, if it's absolutely necessary. But there are other things like using your voice and that mental self-defense that you try to use beforehand, and hopefully not even getting yourself into a situation in the first place where you need to use self-defense at all. The biggest thing, though, is always go with your gut. Our bodies and our minds are wonderful things. And there are many times where you just have a gut feeling about something and you can't explain it, but it's there. Go with your gut. If you're in a situation and you just have this nagging gut feeling that something is not right, something is not right. Even if you cannot readily identify what it is at the time that's not right, get yourself out of whatever situation you're in. Your body and your mind are trying to tell you something, and you need to trust that, even if you can't explain why in the moment.
And that's all we have for this episode. We hope that these tips help you to travel more safely in the future. And if you're left wanting more, make sure to check out Carly's travel book on safety for travel. Like I already said, you can find the safety toolkit at heradventures.com/toolkit. It is, as of now, not available yet, but you can sign up for a 10% discount and to get notified when it does come out, along with all the other great toolkits that we have ready, well, almost ready for you. What the f***? Welcome back to What the... You get the point. Today I'll be teaching you some Norwegian swear words, as Norway is one of the safer countries on this earth. Unless you're yelling at people, swearing at them, then it might not be as safe for you, but hey, your choice. So first we have faen, which means hell or the devil, but it's used as damn or fuck. So we have faen, which then can be extended to faen which means go fuck yourself. Faen ta deg. Or you can even double down on the hellishness and say faen I helvete, which means fucking hell. Faen I helvete. And since I don't have a long one for you really, I give you another short one, which I just found really funny. It's called kronidiot. Kronidiot, which means king of the idiots or crowned idiot. And with that, I'll leave you to swear at your friends in Norwegian, or swear at Norwegians that will never become your friends now. Anyways, if you want to swear at me in your favorite languages, hit me up on Instagram at SophiaAEZ. That's Sophia with a PH. Bye.
Snack attack.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another segment of Snack Attack. This is the part of the show where I try snacks from all over the world and tell you what I think of them. So today I actually have 3 different snacks from Denmark that I'm going to try. 2 of them Sophia sent me on her travels earlier this past year. They are 2 different kinds of chocolate bars, one with a caramel filling and one with a mint filling. And then I did have a snack from Denmark in a Scandinavia Universal Yums box, and that is oat cookies with a cocoa filling. So I'm going to try all 3 of those today. I'm going to start with the cookies. These are better than I expected. Not too sweet, which is typical of things not from the United States. Definitely a little bit of sweetness though. They're pretty good. I'm going to give these a 4 out of 5. So the next 2 things I have are 2 different flavors of a chocolate bar that Sophia sent me. One is a caramel flavor and one is a mint flavor. I'm going to do the caramel one first because I know that the mint one probably is going to have a stronger flavor, so I want to save it for last. So let me take a bite of the caramel. Okay, this is good too. A little bit of a darker chocolate. There's not quite as much filling as I thought there would be, but it still tastes good. I'm going to give that one a 4 out of 5 also. Okay, now for the mint. I'm a little hesitant about this because personally I'm not the biggest mint fan, but we're going to give it a go. This one tasted exactly like I thought it would. It kind of tastes like a combination of a York peppermint patty and an Andes candy, if anybody's ever had those. I'm not a big fan of mint. That's my own personal preference. That has no bearing on how this candy bar actually tastes. But I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5 just because I'm not a huge fan of mint. I'm sorry. But overall, very, very good snacks from Denmark. If you have ideas of where you think I should try snacks from, please send me a DM on Instagram at Carly Sees the World, Carly spelled Carli, and let me know. And I will have these pictures posted there as well so you can see what my snacks look like. See you next time. Bye. That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by heradventures.com/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. And you can also write to us at awayshegosgwt@gmail.com. or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323. To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram at Carly Sees the World. Carly is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at SophiaAEZ. Sophia is spelled Sophia. Away She Goes is part of Her Adventures, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about Her Adventures, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by our members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world. All at heradventures.com. We can't wait to connect and explore with you. Away she goes.